over Taiwan by seeking to distort the meaning of a historical day. NTD's Joy Chu reports from Taiwan.
After Japan's defeat in World War II, the Republic of China reclaimed the island of Taiwan on October 25, 1945. That day has long been celebrated as Taiwan's Retrocession Day. But last week, the Chinese Communist Party designated October 25th as Taiwan Restoration Day. National Taiwan University Associate Professor Chen Shimi noted that China's war of resistance was led by Chiang Kai-shek, who at the time was chairman of the Military Affairs Commission of the Republic of China. When Japan surrendered in 1945, the People's Republic of China did not yet exist.
If we are to speak of a so-called restoration of Taiwan, then the 1945 restoration occurred under the Republic of China, not under the People's Republic of China.
Reporting from Taiwan, Joy Chu, NTD News.
Taiwan condemned Beijing's move to create Taiwan Restoration Day, saying the move seeks to fabricate the claim that Taiwan belongs to China. Nvidia CEO Jensen Huang will hold one of its biggest AI conferences in Washington, D.C., just blocks from the White House. That's as the company tries to navigate a tense U.S.-China tech rivalry. The event Tuesday comes ahead of President Trump's meeting with Chinese regime leader Xi Jinping, where major trade and tech policies hang in the balance. Huang aims to win over U.S. policymakers who determine whether Nvidia can do business with China, the world's largest semiconductor market. China accounts for roughly 40% of the world's AI market. In a recent Fox News interview, Huang said Nvidia's market share in China's AI market went from 95% to zero after U.S. export controls took effect. The framework agreement between the U.S. and China unveiled Sunday could ease trade tensions, but Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said the deal won't change current chip restrictions, making it difficult for Nvidia to re-enter China's market. Meanwhile, China hawks in Congress are pushing to tighten advanced chip sales, saying U.S. national security comes first. The upcoming Nvidia conference will also feature lawmakers from both parties, and following the conference, Huang plans to head to South Korea for a business summit running alongside the APEC summit. Nexperia, a chip.
Welcome to I'm Paul Graney. President Trump is in Japan as part of his Asia tour. He's already met with the Japanese emperor and will meet with the new Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi. Takaichi is known as a China hawk and has consistently criticized the Chinese Communist Party. In fact, Chinese leader Xi Jinping did not send her congratulatory note when she won. He usually does. And joining us now to discuss why Trump is focused on Asia right now and how what's happening there could impact us here is Andrew Harding, Senior Associate for National Security Coalitions at the Heritage Foundation. Andrew, good evening.
Thanks for having me, Paul.
Andrew, Japan's new Prime Minister has been labeled as Japan first. What do you put her success down to?
Well, I think the new Prime Minister's success comes down to really prioritizing the national interest of Japan. That's exactly what you'll be looking for in a Prime Minister and a leader of your country. And I think that type of foundation is going to resonate very well with President Trump. We know that the new Prime Minister Takaichi, is very much focused on putting Japanese interests first. She's very interested in providing economic security for the Japanese people. She's very focused on having an anti-China perspective when it comes to national security. And that's the right type of position a Japanese prime minister ought to have in today's current security dynamics in the Indo-Pacific. As you may note and others may know, the new prime minister worked very closely as an aide and a prior minister under Shinzo Abe, the former Japanese prime minister, for multiple years. And this is the type of legacy that she hopes to continue. She's also made very clear that she's a supporter of the late former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. So combining this all together, this type of foundation of wanting to advance Japanese national interest and work with leaders such as President Trump that has a sane perspective for their own countries, that to me is a recipe for success and something that I'm looking forward to in seeing the upcoming meeting between the two leaders.
Why do you think Japan was ready to elect Takaichi now?
Well, I think in Japan that they're very much looking at, like with any country, how do you resolve any domestic problems that you need a strong new leader in position that can address the concerns that the people have. So, of course, in Japanese domestic politics and the current ruling party, LDP, is having to work through who that next leader may be. We know, however, that the people are very pleased with these recent leadership decisions. Specifically, we know that the new prime minister has an approval rating right now of just about 70%. That is a very high number, especially if you're looking at U.S. presidential numbers, you're commonly seeing a presidential approval rating hovering around 50 or so percent, depending on the poll you look at. So for the new prime minister of Japan to come in at an approval rating of around 70% tells me that the Japanese people have faith in her to address inflationary pressures, that are looking at how to reduce the cost of living in Japan. These problems are very much action items that the prime minister wants to get moving on immediately. And I'm sure that President Trump, as he's visiting Asia, will be able to resonate with different similar policy ideas of looking to reduce the cost of living, certainly in the United States, and looking at what types of relationships can the U.S. and Japan improve upon to help make those realities possible for both countries.
It seems people are facing the same issues worldwide, Andrew. And I believe her approval ratings are historically high, which, as you mentioned, is quite incredible to see somebody with that level of support. Now, Takaichi, she calls Communist China a major threat in the region. How might the United States and Japan work together to counter China?
Well, Paul, this is one of the most critical questions that I really think this meeting with President Trump and the new Prime Minister Takaichi will really lead to some progress there. First and foremost, I'm looking at defense. The new Prime Minister in Japan are very clear-eyed about the threat that China poses to not only to Japan, but to the entire Indo-Pacific region. Prime Minister Takaichi has made very clear that she views Taiwan as a partner, has openly looked at ways to work more closely with Taiwan, having previously met with the president of Taiwan herself in a previous role. What that tells me is that the prime minister is going to look at a defense question, look at the region and the China relationship in a national security angle, looking to safeguard Japan from China's economic tools that China has shown it's willing to weaponize, not only against Japan, but the United States and the entire world, specifically with recent export controls that has certainly really caused a lot of concern around the world. So what that tells me is this relationship will be defense-centric, look at economic security, and as a result, allow the U.S. and Japan to grow more closely. This is a shared threat backed by shared values with shared interests. And that tells me that we can have a good relationship moving forward with the Prime Minister and President aligned on these issues that I'm really optimistic about.
President Trump said he will also bring up the Taiwan issue with Chinese leader Xi Jinping when he meets him later this week or early next week. What are you expecting to come out of that meeting between Trump and Xi?
Well, what I'm really looking for is following the meeting with President Trump and General Secretary Xi Jinping. I want to see if there's going to be agreements made, and there may not be. President Trump has made very clear that he will only agree to things that are in America's interests, that it makes sense to do on behalf of the American people. It's the type of leadership that the American people ought to support and welcome when it comes to advocating for America on the world stage and interacting in one of the most important, if not the most important bilateral relationships that the U.S. has with the People's Republic of China. So with this in mind, I think the president should really keep pushing for an agreement or any types of deals or whatnot that may come from these meetings that makes Americans safer, that makes America stronger, more secure, and makes America more prosperous. Whether that comes to ensuring that export controls cannot be weaponized against the United States, ensuring that rare earth minerals can continue to get into the United States, to ensure our military has the resources it needs, but also American consumers have the products they need. This also looks like pushing back on fentanyl, ensuring that fentanyl precursors from China stop making their way into the United States and killing tens of thousands of Americans every year. It also looks at agricultural access, ensuring that American farmers are able to have fair, competitive access to selling soybeans is one particular example. So as the president works on this with General Secretary Xi, those are the types of things that I think we should be looking for.
Well, Andrew, let's hope the CCP make good on those promises this time. Andrew Harding at the Heritage Foundation. Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks for having me.
学钢琴到底是指法重要还是和弦重要？这是大部分人的误区。许多人
我们今天谈了3个问题，第一个就是说是当这个川习会议确立啊，然后可能涉及到谈到台湾问题的时候，就有一些我称之为这个叫做外一风怪论，就是所谓川普可能出卖台湾的这样的一种阴谋论。这个阴谋论，我今天在节目当中里面，我证明了它逻辑上不能够成立，战略上本身也站不住脚啊。那么第二个，我们就谈到中共的这个四中全会，中共四中全会本身出现了人事的这个部署，其实我认为它是一种人事的风暴啊，可能也隐藏背后不为人知的一种隐形的政变啊，特别是关于政治局常委本身的扩大的这个问题。当然，我们也提到了15计划。这15计划的话，对于它的可能的一些内容以及将来产业的部署，我都一一加以说明。但是我总的一句话就是说，即使画了大饼也充不了鸡啊。那么最后我们谈到这个日本有史以来的第一位的女性的首相叫高市早苗，我提出了她如何去继承后安倍主义的这个路线，无论是在外交战略各方面，我简单的来讲，她所采取的是亲美、防中和挺台的政策。最后我们谈到稀土的问题，美国领导之下的盟国呢，积极的要去建立一个非红的稀土自主性的供应链，已经和澳洲签署了应该是有85亿的美金的合作的方案，陆陆续续的他会跟其他的国家，特别是这一次去参加就马来西亚的这个东亚峰会的时候，一定会触及到美国如何跟马来西亚进行这个稀土开采合作的问题。以上林林总总都意味就是说，中共的稀土牌不是王牌，而只是最后一张底牌，打完了之后那么你将来的你的稀土也一定就是产能过剩，那你就留着自己用吧。